Thanks, Jill, and thank you all for being with us tonight. Can I first of all pay tribute to the work that Harry has done in this field? The work that we've done at Big Brother Watch really is built on the work that he did, and when you stand on the shoulders of giants, you see further. Not that I'm given to quoting Rousseau much, but thank you very much, Harry, for doing that. Harry said this is a topic that is not only of interest to legal nerds. Well, I am a legal nerd, and I thought this topic was tremendously interesting for the public at large, I think, because this is one of the things that people in the country, when they get a sense of the people that are entitled to enter their home without a warrant, without consent, without notice, really get a sense of how far this country has moved from what people still conceive of being traditional British liberties and freedoms. And that's why the second report that we wrote at Big Brother Watch was called Barging In, which I wrote with Dylan Sharp, our campaign director. We gave ourselves a narrower focus than Harry's work. We first of all showed that the number of rights of entry that Harry had identified had grown to 1,043. There are now 1,043 separate powers of entry to the home. And we looked at the powers that local councils delegated to their officers to entitle them to come into your home. So these are people who had to be accredited by the council, not anyone. They had to be accredited by the council, but once they were so accredited, and once they had, to their satisfaction, just cause within their remit to enter your home, they did not require police escort, they do not require to give you notice, and they don't require your consent to enter the home. We sent a series of freedom of information requests to councils across the country, and the result of that was that we established there were some 15,000 such officials in the United Kingdom. That's a figure that doesn't include any police officers, it doesn't include emergency services or paramedics, it doesn't include HMRC, tax inspectors. This is only the man from the council on steroids, entitled to come into your home. And the point that I'd make, first of all, is that we established that figure of 15,000, a hard figure, based on the 3/4 of councils that actually replied. So extrapolating it out, presuming that they were the average, you have 20,000 people. I actually think probably the quarter that refused to respond properly are higher than the average. I rather suspect that the holdouts held out for a reason. But let's say they were the average, and that they had the same number of officials. We're up to 20,000 people entitled to come to your door and demand entry for their purposes. And of course all of the reasons that Harry identified for them being able to effect entry to your home still stand. Let me tell you a couple more. These officials have the right to enter your home to see if pot plants have plant pests in them, or have a plant passport. The Plant Health Order Act 2005. They have the right to check the energy ratings on your fridge. That's the Energy Information Household, open brackets, refrigerators and freezers regulations, close brackets, 2004. Or the right to enter your property and your home to see if your hedges are too high. Or the right to enter your home to see if your hedges are too high. I think that's, and I've got the hypnotism one written down as well. You see that? Sorry. Privilege of going first. I think these are the sorts of things that really do grab the attention of the man in the street and show quite how far our country has come. And as the point that I would seek to make is that as these reasons to barge into your home grow and are given to more people, they become increasingly hard and in the end impossible properly to monitor. It's impossible to oversee that many people, and it's impossible to oversee that many powers. And in the end, any of these officials could retrospectively justify entry to your home. Now, of course, supposedly, they've got a reason in advance. But you don't get to see their paperwork because you don't know they're coming, and you don't get to oversee their paperwork because they don't have to give you notice until after they've arrived and gone through your home. And my problem is that I think there are a series of ink blots that are gradually welling together to the extent that in the end, nobody's got a right to keep people out. Nobody's got a right to say no, because they'll always find something. I also think that this explosion in the right of bureaucrats to enter your private property and to bully you, in effect, in your own home, is a reflection of the growth of our bureaucracy and our bureaucratic state per se. I think of the fact that local council in Croydon used the full covert surveillance powers available to the council to try and work out who had trimmed a hedge. It's not suggesting they'd torn it up, not suggesting they'd killed it or stolen it, or anything that you might do to a hedge that might conceivably justify covert surveillance. It was just to try and work out who had trimmed it. And so they put covert surveillance in place to try and catch him when the bounder came back. That's the sort of country we now live in. But I think this is particularly important. First of all, because I happen to think that entering the home, a private property, is particularly important and particularly invasive. I think there's something special about the home, and there ought to be something special about the home in law. But I also think this is important because it's dangerous to enter the home if you are not properly qualified. When I say properly qualified, I don't mean given a badge by the council. I mean if you are not really equipped to do it, if you are not able to deal with people in the proper way. And I find it particularly alarming that these are powers we deny to the police, who I think, for all their faults, we probably trust a bit more than we trust the man from the council. We hold the police to a higher standard than we hold council officials now. And I think that cannot be right. I think we've gone the wrong way in society when our courts are holding the police to a higher standard and our councils are granting their local officials powers that mean a much lower standard could be affected into entry. And the final thing that I'd say is that it's true at the moment there's a difference between their power and the reality of the rights of entry that they're exercising. Very often the man from the council will come to your door, tell you, just like the people from the BBC do, I've got a right to come in, and even if I don't come in, well, you watch out, sunshine, because I can have you next time. And then they normally go back and they try and get a warrant, because they're afraid to exercise that power, or because, more likely, they're afraid of adverse media reaction, or because they're afraid of court action. I am uncomfortable living in a country in which we are dependent for our privacy on a council officer's goodwill or reticence. Those are not good enough guarantees to my mind, and these are powers that ought properly to be restrained by statute. I say nothing else will do.